I am ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 9 to the Sky. Now, at this point throughout the mod pack, we have started to build our infrastructure up, and that's going to lead us to some bigger and better things in the future. So, for example, last episode, we worked on mechanism, and we got the basic infrastructure set up to be able to make anything we really want within mechanism. And prior to that, we ended up setting industrial foregoing. We also have thermal set up, and we have a really nice base foundation, I think, for really conquering this mod pack. And I've also started to expand my infrastructure. So I've started to lay out and move things around. For example, my Fidos, all that setup that we had underground and down here, I've started to set them up over here to really allow an expansion of our seed production infrastructure. And speaking of seeds and mystical agriculture, we're going to be diving into that a bit more today, but there's also some other stuff we're going to be getting into, including Ars Nouveau, and probably a little bit of blood magic, just a teensy bit. So I guess first things first, let's go ahead and see if we can't get mystical agriculture sort of automated. And when I mean automated, I mean being able to use our applied energistic system to auto-convert the inferium essence into any tier we want. Now, this process would be pretty straightforward, but there is the mystical agriculture tiered crystals in this pack, which means we actually have to manually go up into the supremium version. Now, I almost want to bet that we could technically set up the autocrafts for all of those individual components, just so long as whenever we were under the crafting section here, that we had substitutions enabled, which would basically utilize the durability of these in its crafting operations. But that would also be pretty wasteful, as we are going to need ourselves a supremium here, and so these are going to be very costly, and we are kind of limited on our prosperity shards. And the main reason is, well, I haven't set up the sieving even at this point for soul sand, which is kind of a goof on my part. So what I want to do is get all the way up into this master infusion crystal, which, yes, is going to require me to handcraft insanium, but it should be pretty simple, especially since we have all of this essence that's built up from just our mob farm alone without even needing to set it up inside of any like crazy farm. And so that didn't take very long at all, and I now have the ability to make a master infusion crystal. And honestly, it only took technically 5 of these inferium infusion crystals and just 1 of each other tier, and we had all of the stuff we needed. And so now for the fun part, setting up the autocrafts. Now, you probably want to make sure that substitutions enabled is on. You want to make sure this is turned on whenever you are setting up these autocrafts with this master infusion crystal. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start setting up this recipe, but I'm going to replace this with this master infusion crystal. Now, the goal is that we should be able to just request the craft and it should work. At least that's the intended goal, right? And that is for each tier going all the way up into insanium. And so after getting these in a pattern terminal, this should now be one of the simplest ways of automating this. Because if you're using refined storage, there's actually another method that you would have to go about doing. For example, sending them through an external crafter, for example, like a crafter tier 3, and having them all crafted up to the top tier, and then you can use refined storage to downcraft, which is typically how I like to go about it, and that has been something I've definitely done in the past. So in this case, we just need to make sure the infusion crystal's in here, and let's, for example, craft up some of this. Now, it does take a bit of time to go, oh, I need to calculate and process this. And notice it says right here, we don't have enough crafting CPUs. So that's something we're probably going to have to add some more of those. But let's now take a look at crafting Imperium Essence. Can we craft 10 Imperium Essence? We can. So yes, it does look like it is a matter of just simply needing more of these processing units, which I've been kind of needing to do anyways. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm just simply going to add them in. And I'm going to add 4 more to our total of 4 that we currently have, and that will give us a total of 8. Oh, and later on, by the way, we'll have access to compressed versions of those. It's kind of interesting, but there's a lot of add-on mods for applied energistics, and it gets kind of complicated to just bring them up randomly, but I just wanted to mention that. So for now, I'll just boop these all in, and now we'll have access to being able to craft, hopefully, all the way up to Supremium. Now, there's some other things I'm going to need to do. For example, I'm going to need to accelerate this. So in each one of these, I'm going to want to put my acceleration cards to make this a bit faster, because as of right now, it does feel a teensy bit slow. So after getting all of those upgrading, get the acceleration up, I also forgot to mention, whenever I was adding in my crafters here, definitely need to upgrade to, for example, the 64K and so on, higher than the 4K, because whenever we start to work on very large crafts that have very complicated extensions in them, that means that we're going to need to be handling way more items. So if I'm crafting Insanium, that means that down the road, for example, if I craft 20 of them, this is using a ton of bytes of data. So whenever it does use a lot of bytes of data, that means that the crafter is going to also need to be able to handle large amounts of data. So for right now, I could have multiple of these 64K storages in here, but that is what's going to allow me to craft high-end stuff. For example, like that Insanium. So let's craft 10 of those, and we'll now be able to physically see how quickly this can craft. And you might think this isn't super fast. And to be fair, it's not. It might be best still to have all of our essence just sent out and auto-converted up into Insanium, in which it would be, in that way, technically faster to downcraft, especially later on. And not to mention, easier on our system. I just wanted to show off that Applied Energistics can actually do this, because in refined storage, this is not really possible. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking on refined storage in this series, because I absolutely love refined storage. I just want to show you the differences if you've seen what refined can do versus what Applied can do. There's a lot of new things that Applied has added, and that's just one of the many things that just make it insanely powerful. So now that we have access to Insanium, we can start to work our way even further into completing our Vibranium questline here. So the only other thing we have to really worry about is getting ourselves a bucket of life essence from Blood Magic, and also automating these essences. And so that's going to bring us into Ars Nouveau. And I'm going to show you, especially if you have the mob farms you've been following this series so far, I'm going to show you one of the easiest ways to just up and generate source. And that's through the use of the Vitalic source link. So just 2 of these source links attached to our mob farm should be enough to generate a ton, and I mean a ton, of source for us. Just being nearby mobs dying, this thing right here will produce a lot of just magic essence for us. And outside of that, nothing else is required. You just need the mob farm, you just need to have this place down, and well, we are going to need to craft a couple of things to basically get this source to move around our base. But for right now, I want to go ahead and place down some jars just to have this filling up. So you'll see each time these mobs die, this is going to start filling up these jars, and it's just an incredibly fast way of getting this source. Now, there are many other ways that we can definitely do this down the road. And for example, just automating a lava bucket would be a great way to do that. But this right here is great and free and cheap. So now at this point, let's talk about these things that's been sticking out the side of my base for a while. This is where I plan on having the Ars Islands located. So this is going to give us access to villagers and many other things when we set these up. Now, I also figured with setting these up, well, it's probably going to also bring a bit of life to the base as well, because it's very industrial. We have no real grass outside of the grass that's in here. So having these little areas, I think, are going to be very nice. So I guess one of the first areas I can go ahead and put in is probably going to be our flourishing, and then we'll probably do the cascading. This is going to be on the other side, and then we'll have a village out as well. The village is going to be very specific because I do want to be able to grab those villagers, because believe it or not, we do have villager easy villagers in here, which makes picking up villagers insanely quick. And so I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and get our ritual in. So I have this extended out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then I've gone up 2 blocks to kind of give it a little bit of height so I can add some stairs to get up here. And so I'm going to go ahead with this one, and I'm just going to summon this in. Creates an island. It'll have moss, glowberries, bamboo, converts the area into a mangrove swamp. So this is something that I definitely want. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my source jars, which I think ended up going inside of my barrel, or not in the barrel. They were just right in my inventory. And then this right here, I just need to place on the side. It's going to use the whole thing, just like we built our island prior. I'm going to go ahead and right click this and activate. And hopefully I built this far enough away that it should be almost perfect. Yeah, giving us a nice little bit of a gap and building far enough away to not cause any concern. I don't want it really interacting with this, and giving me enough room to also decorate on the outside, making it sort of fit in with the rest of the build. Oh man, I just love how quick these things get built up like this. This is super nice. And it's also going to give us a variety of different biomes that we can work with and play with. Look at that. I wonder, does this one have mushrooms? No, this is not the mushroom one. But we have glowberries, bamboo, all kinds of cool stuff that this island basically just generates. Very nice. Oh man, it's just super satisfying watching this whole thing just pop up like this. And there we go. Okay, so that's that island in. And like I said, these are the areas I would like to technically set up ours and get the automation going in. Now this one over here, I'm going to go ahead and summon in the deep dark. And this is a very interesting one as well. It says the ritual should be performed at least 14 blocks away from any other. And I think the only exception is this village, and unfortunately it doesn't really tell you the dimensions, and I don't remember them. So that's going to be the only one that's a little bit of a problem. But when I activate this, this is just going to spawn deep slate, which fits in with everything else we have around as well. But I've got to be careful with this one because the warden can spawn from the shriekers that actually spawn on this thing. So yeah, and there are shriekers that are going to be embedded in here, and they are natural shriekers. So this whole thing can technically spawn in the warden. So yeah, I'm going to have to sneak my way through here and grab my stuff out of here temporarily. Be very careful, because I do not want to summon the warden right now. Now, I think this one over here, I want this one to be the cascading, which is going to give us an ocean biome, which in my opinion is necessary because you're going to need a warm ocean, which is what this generates. You're going to need that anyways later on if you ever want to go after the Patrick Bee, and that is unless they added some other way to get it. But as far as I know, warm ocean is all you need, and this right here generates it. And there we go. We have our ocean biome back up and ready to go. Like I said, I really want to make these sort of incorporated into this whole area, so bear with it being kind of ridiculous looking right now. It will hopefully turn out good in the end. Now for this one. This is the only one I'm a little bit concerned about because of the sheer size of it. I think it is bigger than the 15 by 15, but we'll see. This should spawn in some villagers. So I'm going to click that, and this island, please don't be as big as the other ones or bigger. Okay, good. Whew, it's a 14 by 14 as well, I think. I was a little bit concerned about this one, specifically because I feel like it was bigger at some point, but I guess not. But this one should summon some houses, and it should also summon some nice villagers, which will be very handy for us. Yeah, look at the cute little paths that's going on, and the little huts that are going up. This is a very little, cute little island. And honestly, would be a nice like starter island too. Like this is not too difficult to actually craft, requiring like a blaze rod, a diamond, and so on and so forth, and a block of amethyst. So really, really small. And there we go. So now we have villagers, and we should be able to shift right click on these guys to pick them up and put them in an inventory. Did this not generate? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, wait, is this is using, no. Why is the inside roof of this house look like that? Are these what I think they are? Oh my gosh, they are. And you can't even see them. The Skyweave. So yes, Skyweave acts as a skyblock. Notice up here, and it makes it look like a skyblock. I don't remember this being in this prior, but that's a really cool way to show off that Skyweave exists. Another thing, this also comes pre-equipped with an arcane core, which is what this villager right here needs to do trades from ours. And there's some actually really good trades that these guys offer. Now, something I want to set up right away after getting this is going to be a villager breeder. And you could do this very simply by having yourself a hopper, having an incubator, and then another hopper, and then above that, the actual breeder. And then of course a barrel that you can put food into to feed into your breeder. And then you just put your two different villagers in here. So you right click them just like so. And then we can take like carrots, for example, or any sort of farm. It doesn't really matter so long as it's like bread or something that they can eat. And then we just give it to them. And once there's enough, they will breed, they will make a baby, it will go into the incubator, and then the incubator will turn the baby into an adult, and we should have an entire barrel of adult villagers. Yeah, don't question it, it just works. Yeah, we'll just go from there. So now let's go ahead and dive back into how we can produce this essence, which is the whole reason we set up these islands in the first place. So the essence production is actually kind of simple. Really, we just need to worry about the 3 items that are required for each one of these crafts. And for right now, let's just disregard the fact that it even needs source in the first place, because in reality, it really doesn't need any. It can just produce it passively over time. But we can increase that later on. So for right now, we just need to worry about obtaining these items, and each one of them has a different item that it needs in order for us to get this. Now, a lot of these items you can get from doing the gateway. You can get a ton of these individual items specifically from the gateways. So that's nothing like if you're worrying how to use a Starbuncle token, you don't have to worry about that because you actually get that Starbuncle token via loot drops. Or you can get it through villager trades, or you can just do it the actual way that it's intended by giving a Starbuncle, which you should get in a passive mob farm, just in a gold nugget. So all of these things, we just need to obtain them, and then essentially we need to send them another ingredient, which is the source gem. Now, source gems also generate passively. We can either give lapis or we can give amethyst shards, which we have infinitely generating from our sieving farm. So my idea is to essentially have a system set up that down here receives a lapis, for example, and then that lapis then gets sent up, and this is going to need to probably go one more block down because I did find that the range on this is a little bit wonky, as if we have, for example, pedestals on one above, there's going to need to be a block space in between, just like so. Otherwise, our bottom craft will not work here. For example, if we have like water essence being generated, it's not going to work here. So by placing these on the sides, this actually is a way of storing these patterns like this, or you can just place them directly on the ground. Now, I do need to get my crystal up here, so a good way to automate these is by using something that has a filtered inventory. For example, if I have a drawer here, I can filter the source crystal. So this will eventually, over time, convert into the source crystal. But if I was to just automatically pull out of here, it would actually pull out the lapis. So you have to filter just like this. And I want to go ahead and use the storage drawers. I feel like this is an interesting little pipe that you can use that has a filter that's really easy to configure. You can, of course, use up the pipes mod if you really want to. But in this case, we should be able to use the pusher and puller upgrades, and I can tell this specifically what to do. So I want the pusher upgrade to send the item up here, and I want a puller upgrade to pull from the bottom. So when this is done converting, if I have a puller upgrade in here, it's going to pull the source gem into here, and then I'm going to want this to send up, and that is going to send the source gem into this imbuement chamber. And then once this is all finished crafting and all of our stuff is done, what we should see, I believe this should work, we should hopefully see that puller pulling the item in. Come on now, don't make me a fool. Down. It needs to be on the down. Sorry, not south. I always associate south with down. That's kind of my fault. Notice, by the way, there it is. But yes, we want the up to send it. So as soon as I put this in, we'll notice that is going to send the item to the up, or at least it should. Is it going to make me a fool again? I think it is. North? No, it should be set. This one should be set to a pusher upgrade to the north. Oddly enough, it's not letting it insert in. It should, though. Oh, that's because there's no recipe. That's right. So these will not work until we actually have the recipes applied into them. And so I'm going to go ahead and get all of them set up. All of them require different tasks and different little individual items. It's just a little tedious, but all in all, this should be super simple to obtain everything. So now once all of the items are in, these have now already produced their product. So I did put at least one inside of each of these, and they're already ready to go. So these have produced all of the different materials that they've needed, but now I need to handle the logistics of getting the items out and also restocking the lapis or amethyst. And so I have 7 of these that I need to kind of handle. And then this one right here, I just want to use to solely produce excess source gems for later automation. Now, the cool thing is I should be able to handle all of this with just a simple ME interface connected, of course, to a wireless connector, which is connected back to my applied energetics system wirelessly. So how is this interface actually going to work for me? Well, if I use a modular router, I can wirelessly send items all over the place here. For example, if I place my modular router right here, I can set this modular router and have my interface always sending items to me. The interface is kind of cool. It can send items out, or not send, it can keep items in stock in here, and then we can interface and pull from it. We can also send items into the interface. All of those things are really, really handy because, for example, amethyst, we should be able to drag that into the slot and it will always keep amethyst in stock, meaning that we can use a distribution module, and we can also, let's see, with apply or with modular routers, we can utilize a puller upgrade as well, just a regular MK puller. And I'll say, pull from the back of my modular router. And what this should do is it should pull this amethyst in here. If I put this in here, it should start pulling amethyst from this ME interface into this buffer. That's all cool. Like, that's exactly what we want. But now we want to use a distribution to send the amethyst to these particular crystals down here, including this one right here. So that's exactly 8, which is the exact number we need. And we need to make sure this is transfer out of it and also round robin. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure these are all selected, getting every single one of these bottom ones set up to receive the base amethyst. And so with all that set up, we can go ahead and place this here. And now this is going to start pulling out those amethyst shards from here. And by the way, we can change this value on the amethyst. So we can say keep 64 in stock. And if we put 64 in this slot, it's going to hold 64, which is exactly what we want. And so now this is going to start sending it out into all of these, imbuement chambers, which is exactly what we want to have done. And because of the way we set this up, we only have to worry about that one input. Now, pulling all of these items in, well, that's also fairly simple. So I'm just going to utilize one modular router, and I can use one modular router to send items into here. So if we have a pusher, just a regular pusher upgrade, which is this one right here, or sender, I guess it's called a sender upgrade, we should be able to have this sending to the back of this modular router to send any items it's received back into the interface. So that's pretty straightforward. And then we can use a distribution module for 7 of these and a puller module for this one specific one right here. So because this has generated a source gem, what we could do in our simple one is set a whitelist to only pull out source gems. So if I put this over here, this should now have automated the source gem production to send it back into my system once that has completed. Now on this, we want this to be transfer into router. And this one's going to be a little bit different. We're going to create a whitelist, and I'm just going to add all of these 7 essences into the whitelist. Or I could leave it a blacklist, and I could also, that would be a little bit easier, I guess, blacklist source gems. You know what? Let's go ahead and do it that way, because that's a whole lot easier. We just blacklist source gems here. And now when I place this in, the only thing it should be able to pull is those essences. And so that should pull the essences out of here. Of course, once we have them actually selected. So we have to select where we're pulling from in order for this to work. Oh, it's just too good. This is a really nice automation too. And right here, put that in. And as you can see, the essences go in here, and then our sender module is sending that back into our storage system. Effectively, now we have automated this, and we also have a buffer that will start to build up of source gems that we might use later on. So this essentially automates the R's source. Now we can actually speed these up with source jars. So this will actually draw directly from source jars to speed this process up. The main one I think right now is just getting this main source gem one sped up. That's going to be the major one. And to do this, I am going to need to take source relays, and I'm going to upgrade and make a splitter. And this will allow us to send and kind of move our source around that are being generated here from our not our volcanic, but from our vitalic source links. So with that, I should be able to make a splitter, and there's a couple of different types. For right now, the main thing I need to focus on is just using regular source relays, and which allows us to send from one location to another, and also splitters. Splitters allow us to split off those connections, allowing us to have multiple for one. So definitely splitters are better. Now, a cool part about these guys is they do work underground. So they will pass through blocks, which is pretty nice. I'm going to have my splitter sort of down here because we're going to eventually have multiple things linked. But I believe I should just be able to set my destination. And so I can connect, for example, the volcanic source link, and I should be able to just link it directly here. So you can see the relay is set to take from that source link. And then I can actually take this by right-clicking and then right-clicking on here to set its destination. So you can see the source is now being sent here. And then from this splitter, we can also connect this other one up to it. So this will allow us just to have a bit more. So connected right here. And then I will make sure this Vitalik is connected, and so on and so forth. So you just right click from the point you want to receive from, and then send to the point you want to send to. And then that will have everything all connected. Now, these do have a limited range. So they're not like infinite. So for example, I want to send from this splitter now into this one. So I right click, but I don't know if that's going to link. You can see it says too far away. But this is where you should be able to essentially have like multiple source relays. So I don't know if this is going to be too far away. So we'll set that position and right click here. We might, oh, that actually did work. And then I can now send to this one. And then this one can send into any of these machines, for example, this one right here. And it was weird to call them machines, but essentially they are. This magic mod is magic, but it's also a tech mod, if that makes any sense. Oh, and by the way, to show that it does go through walls, I'm going to place my source relay right here that I just linked up, and I'll just reset my position and relink it here. And this, I believe, will be able to pull out of it. So you really don't need a storage tank, technically, if you don't want to. But you'll notice this does produce the gems, the source gems, way faster now. And so now with that done, it is just time to simply clean this up. And so on this bottom layer, I'm going to make this all sort of wood, utilizing the archwood planks. Then I'm just going to cover it up with some magenta glass, which I think looks really good in this setup. And already with that, we every single essence now starting to be produced. And now this only leaves me with a couple of extra things now that we need to do to actually get up the Vibranium. And that's to simply make a blood altar, which is one of the things that we have to get done. We just need to get a little setup done for this, just temporary for right now. Later on, we will be diving deeper into blood magic, as we're going to have to. Now, to just set this up, it's about as simple as it gets. We're going to go ahead and place a blood altar down, and then just simply use our sacrificial knife. As of right now, you can see our health has, it does regenerate because we do have regeneration, which is very nice. But we basically need a bucket of this fluid. So just one or two for right now. I'm just going to go ahead and put one in, and we can put this inside here. And then if we want to speed this up and make it a little quicker, we can accelerate this. And you can see that is one way that we can get this bucket. It's not automated or anything like that, but it's just a simple cut and dry way to get this. And so now all I have left to do is to show you how we can technically automate this. So if you've wanted to know how to actually automate the summoning altar, let me try my best to explain how this process works. So whenever you create your pattern for this, it is as simple as just simply clicking the recipe and sending it in here. So, for example, this one right here, the Vibranium, all we have to know is what our catalyst is. So this needs to be the last thing in our pattern list, because this is the last item that essentially gets sent into this ritual. So notice how it kind of strings everything out here, and that's not how we want this to be set up. Instead, we want, like, for example, the Insanium. We want all of these things, and also our bucket of life essence. We want these to be moved around. For example, I'm just going to move my bucket of life essence up here, and then we need to go from left to right, going down left to right. And then so this right here would be our catalyst. And so that would just need to be all the modium. And so in this recipe, the final item would end up being this one right here. And just to verify, just to make sure that our recipe is correct, let's go ahead and look at this recipe again. And we'll notice it's 3 of the Insanium, and then we should have 4 of the individual essences, and then a bucket. And then we end up with that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have that. So this recipe should be correct, and we should expect an outcome of 3 Vibranium. So in doing this, whenever we create this pattern, we can then send it to a pattern provider. And that's as simple as placing a pattern provider directly on here. But yeah, notice a problem that I'm having right here. So it is accepting the pattern provider. So what we can do is instead, just in place of that for now, we'll just place a pattern provider just like so, connected to it, and then we can place down the summoning altar, just to make sure we're not sending the item in. But once this item is complete, it actually sends the item like up into the world as a physical item, and we actually need to collect that. And that's where we can use an item interface. So directly on top of this, I'm going to place an item interface. And the thing that is going to allow me to send back in is, believe it or not, going to be a world transporter. And this is kind of a new item to me, but I really do like it. Essentially what it does is it allows you to pull items from within the world into this transporter. And so we can set whitelists and blacklists on very particular items. And we can, for example, say, hey, only send Vibranium. And I don't know if I can just, I think I have to have the item, but for right now, we shouldn't even have to worry about filtering it. It should just work. And I think in its current mode, which being in blacklist, we can just like toss an item in front, and notice that barrel got sent into this item interface. That's pretty straightforward. It's about as easy as it gets. And so with now both of these set up, I can place in my pattern here, and we should be able to request these items. Let's go ahead and do Vibranium. So this will do a set of 3, and it does say a bucket of life essence is missing because we don't have an inner system. That would make sense. But now we should be able to craft it. And it does the operation. And of course, I took the item in, but if I didn't have my magnet on, it would go right here, and that should complete this craft. And there we go. So let's try it again without the magnet. And so here we go. Let's do another Vibranium, and we will request another set of 3, send it in, and oh, it does actually toss this up a little bit. So like, I guess for a temporary, like super temporary setup, we can use some glass to sort of surround this. And then when it pops the item up, it technically shouldn't go all over the place. Or we might be able to put this like directly above this too. It does seem like those items kind of go there, but you do need it to be within this block space. So that is something to sort of keep in mind. But if we place it just right, just like that, if I do another set of Vibranium, let's go ahead and make sure these go in to make sure our craft is set. There it goes. No, it literally just shoots it out. Well, this set did not work right, did it? I mean, come on. At this point, it's gotta work. It's gotta. I love how now we've already crafted a block, because in reality, we really only need like 2 blocks worth. I guess at this point, just don't even worry about it. I'm not even worried fully about that. Why? I mean, we could just use a collector that would essentially just collect these items that are popping out. Well, I mean, at least I get to show off the world transporter a little bit, because I guess in this regard, it probably would be best to have an item collector very, very small inside of a contained area, just like this. And then that will automatically send into the interface. There you go. And then we can set a filter as well, and that would satisfy the craft. So now we'll try it, and perfect. It just instacraft. And this right here shows that there's always typically a solution to this problem. And so now with that, we have access to Vibranium. And this is only going to lead us even further into the production of all 3 of these materials and producing them indefinitely. This is something that I'm excited to be able to do, and we are going to get it done. Because next episode, we're going to work on getting an unobtainium, and then we should be able to mass produce all 3 of these items on a whim, just like having a constant supply of them, and no longer will we have to worry about this minuscule little operation that we have going here for those individual types of items. However, there are still other things that we're going to have to automate in the way that you see behind me, so that's something we'll be working on in the future. But I hope you guys did enjoy today's episode, and of course, if you did, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. I really appreciate you, and of course, I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. So, with that all being said, it's now time for me to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that huge thanks is going to go out to Thanatos. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support by choosing to support me over on the Discord, gaining access to not only the world downloads, but in this case, also the supporter servers, and including our All the Mods 9 to the Sky server. Thank you so very much. By choosing to support me, you have essentially allowed me to not need to run embedded ads in this video, or in any video that I put out in the future. Thank you so much for your amazing support, guys. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and of course, as always, thanks for watching. Bye!